Hello students, today I am going to teach you one more concept in physics, that is mechanical properties of the solids. In the mechanical properties, how the solid is made up of, we know that different substances, there are three kind of matters, one is solid, liquid and gases, and all these substances have different properties. But in case of solid, we have different properties than the liquid and the gaseous substances. Today we are going to study about the solid objects. We know that the solid has definite shape and size. But when external force is acting on the solid, then what changes takes place in that solid, that we are going to study today. In the first part, it is about like what kind of properties are there in the solid, or why we say this is a solid or this is a liquid or this is a gas. We know that the basic properties in which the solid have definite shape, definite size. But why that size is there in that particular solid? Because the solids are made up of particles which are tightly bounded with each other. And therefore, the solid state, solids are made up of, in this case, solids is a group of atoms. And when the solid substances are there, then the atoms are tightly bounded, and therefore whatever arrangement is there in the particular particle is fixed. Like the force, internal restoring force is there in the solid substance, or the particles are, because of that force, that are tightly bounded. In case of arrangement, that is decided by the nature, so that the resultant force acting on each constituent due to other is 0. These particles are not applying any force to each other, and this is in equilibrium state of solid. So solid is in equilibrium state, and that is why the solid is taking definite shape at room temperature. At room temperature is very important, because if heat is given to the solid substance, then the distance between particles becomes more, and that is why the solid changes to another form, that is liquid form. So at room temperature, the solid substance is at equilibrium state, and the given equilibrium arranged does not change with time, and that is why it is solid. If the time goes on, the solid is not going to change its shape and size. It is same always, and that is why it can change only when external stimulus like compressive force is acting on the solid. Means the force is acting from all the sides of the solid, and that is why the internal structure of the solid may change, or if we apply the force from all the sides, then it may elongate. In this chapter, mechanical properties, we are going to study that things. How the restoring force is acting there, or how the external force is applied on how much area. According to that, how the changes takes place in case of solid, that we are going to study. The constituents vibrates about their equilibrium position even at very low temperature, but cannot leave their fixed position, because when the solid, in a solid state, the particles which are there in the solid, they have fixed distance between them, and if external force is acting, then only the internal structure will change. In this chapter, we are going to study that all things. In fact, provides the solid have definite shape and size, and that is why the solid have particular shape and particular size. Now, when the external force is applied on that solid object, the constituents are slightly displaced and the restoring force is developed in it. and because of that restoring force, the solid regain its original shape and size. Therefore, the restoring force try to bring in the constituents back to their equilibrium position, and that is why the solid is again come back into the original shape. So, when the deforming force is removed, then the interatomic forces tends to restore the original position of the molecules, because external force is not acting on a body. If you remove that force, then again whatever rearrangement happened earlier, again the solid come back into the original state. So, therefore, as well as we see later, this is possible only within a certain limit. Try to understand, if we have a particular rubber with you and if you apply the force on both the sides, then the rubber elongates. If you remove the external force, the rubber come back to its original state. But again and again if we do that same thing, then there will be a permanent change in the shape and size of the rubber. Or suppose any like some solid body like a wire is taken, and if you apply the external force to it, the wire elongates. But how much that elongation is? If you apply the external force greater, then the permanent elongation may take place and the wire cannot regain its original shape and size. Therefore, when external force is acting, it must be within the elastic limit. So, within the elastic limit, when external force is applied, the body regain its original shape and size. That is only the property in case of solids. So, therefore, the form of a body is decided by its size and shape, and suppose tennis ball is there or football is there, they have spherical in shape. So, they must have the same shape, but the tennis ball is smaller in size than the football. So, that means the size of the body depends on particular object or how the use of that object is. According to that, when a force is applied to a solid, the size and shape of both changes due to change in relative position. So, that means what happens when external force is acting on a body? So, there will be change in the shape, change in the size, or it may change both. Shape also changes, size also changes. So, such force is called as deforming force. The force which is acting on a solid body and because of which the solid body change its shape and size is called as deforming force. So, therefore, change in shape and size or both of body due to the external force is called as deformation. So, this is the definition of the deformation. So, larger the external force acting on a body, larger will be the deformation. So, therefore, there is a direct variation between the deforming force and deformation. If more amount of force is acting on a body, there will be more deformation, as like if x proportional to y, then as x increases, y also increases. So, therefore, we know that when the deforming force as like stretching is applied on a rubber band, it get deformed, and when the force is removed, it regain its original length. So, therefore, whatever the force is acting on a particular body, different kind of deformation happen. If we apply the external force on the putty or the plaster of Paris, then there will be permanent shape change happen, and that is why the POP is used for making designs in our houses, because the particular design once you made, it will be a permanent shape and size. So, therefore, if external force is more, the deformation is more, and the observation included that the rubber or clay or putty, if we say, the property that decide the nature is called as elasticity or plasticity. So, there are two things as elasticity and plasticity. If external force is acting on a body and there is a permanent deformation takes place in that body, such a body is a plastic body. And elasticity is a property because of which the solid regain its original shape and size after removal of external restoring force or external force. Is that clear? So, like that there are two properties of the substances, which is elasticity and plasticity. So, in this chapter we are going to study about the elasticity and plasticity of a body. So, the internal structure of the body is remain its original shape and size. Now, when a body regain its original shape and size after removal of deforming force, then it is called as elastic body, and the property is called as elasticity. Okay. So, here the restoring force are strong enough, and that is why when you remove the external force, the body regain its original shape and it come back again to the original shape and size. So, different examples are there of this plasticity and elasticity. The plasticity, there is a permanent deformation because of external force, and elasticity, the body regain its original shape and size after removal of the force. So, within elastic limit this will happen. So, students, you understood the basic concepts related to the external behavior and the internal behavior of the body and the mechanical properties of the solid. So, see you in the next video. Like, subscribe and tell your parents and your friends and your relatives about Arni Foundation, about SM Kulkarni Math and Science Academy. You will definitely get help from our side. Okay, thank you. See you later.